Welcome back, and I hope that little activity had you thinking a little bit more about video and what's possible in terms of not only what we can find and use, but also how individuals can create their own, and we can create our own. But with that said, let's go back to a little bit more video that's out there. Some for free, some for sites where it's we can access it for free. Other places, of course, where it's for pay. But let's go to Brightstorm. And Brightstorm, to me, is one of many other resources out there that offer us video, and offer us video in a little different format than what we explored earlier. But again, very similar. So this one's on plotting points and naming quadrants. So let's go ahead and fast forward
Early
a little
algebra studies is how we talk about what's called the Cartesian coordinate plane, which pretty much just means like a graph. What the story is that this guy who was a French mathematician, his name was René Descartes, supposedly he was lying in his bed and there was this...
All right, so she's offering some context. She's introducing some elements here. She's providing an explanation. But as we get into it, then she'll break us down into, let's go to the problem, which is about a minute.
Rectangular coordinate system, which is this one. It's really important that you guys remember which one's the side to side.
So now Brightstorm does have a pay element here, but what I'm illustrating here is simply the video element. And that is, okay, so she's illustrating it similar to what we talked about earlier. She's offering a little bit more context than simply just, here's a sheet of paper, let's work through the problem. She's giving some context, and then, of course, the way they structure things is there's several problems, and then we go next to what would be the next point after plotting points into interpreting graphs. Now, there's other resources that do this, so let's take a look at Math TV. Math TV, here's our illustration. This would be algebra, and this would be in terms of the rational expressions multiplying and dividing rational expressions, particularly positive and negative numbers. So let's listen to this gentleman. Oh, we'll have to make sure we can actually hear him here.
Y minus 2 times y minus 3. Does that sound right? Let's see, inside negative 2y, outside negative 3y, they add up to negative 5y, and negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6.
All right, so similar to what we just saw, but a little different. Now he's actually presenting simply, here it is. I'm going to walk you through it on the whiteboard. I'm going to walk through a number of different concepts. Of course, I can actually look at from adding to subtracting to multiplying, dividing, order of operations, and it goes on and on and on. Now this is Math TV. Let's move over to Neo K-12. Neo K-12 is another resource. And what Neo K-12 does is everything from games but also videos, and it tends to grab videos from lots of different places. Now this one happens to be on the least common multiples. It's off of YouTube. Let's listen to the gentleman.
Notice that our 2's match up as factors of each of our integers. And our 3's also match up as factors of each of our integers.
Now, pretty straightforward. I'd have to say not the most engaging individual, but again, an illustration of another way a video can be used to be able to teach this direct instruction in relationship to math. Let's go back to Neo. And now this is Math Antics. Now this is off of Neo K-12, but it's also a separate site called Math Antics. Well, let's go ahead and give you an illustration here.
400 times 20. Now that's a problem we know how to do. To multiply fractions, we just multiply the top numbers, and then we multiply the bottom numbers to get the answer.
Now it's a little different. It's still offering us that kind of explicit instruction, but a little different in terms of our visualization. Let's kind of move on here to another site. This site's called What Know Learn. Now What Know Learn does simply what Neo K-12 does, and they grab video from lots of different places. This happens to be off of dummies.com. And this is dealing with understanding vocabulary of math, specifically for algebra. So let's listen to this for a little bit.
Here are a few symbols you should know. An expression is any combination of values and operations that can be used to show how things belong together and compare to one another. Here's an example of an expression. A term, such as 4xy, is a grouping of one or more factors.
So she's kind of introduced this idea, kind of a blackboard scenario here. And it's short. It's all 2 minutes, kind of introducing the vocabulary of algebra. And again, this is off of Watch, Know, Learn. But it's not one of their original ones. It's simply one that they grabbed. And they've organized, though, up under topics here off the directory. Now back over to Math Antics. Math Antics, here's one on negative and positive numbers. Here we go.
But they have a negative factor built into them. For example, think about the number 3 for a minute. Do you remember when we learned about factors? we learned that 1 is always a factor of any number.
Now you can see clearly, and we'll come back to math antics one more time, clearly a little different from some of their other ones. But again, still trying to explain that problem, still offering that instruction. Now let's go on to YouTube itself. We've grabbed a few from YouTube. And let's back up here and take a look at, I think her name is Michelle, I may be wrong, but this is off of eHow. And actually she'll introduce herself here in just a second.
Hi, my name is Maria. I'm a mathematician, and today I'm going to show you how to teach ratios in mathematics. So a ratio is a comparison of two numbers, and you might be given a comparison such as 1 pint is equal to 2 cups.
All right, so we'll come back to Maria here as well as Math Antics. But the reason I'm bringing her up is the fact that I can go here up under YouTube and scroll down. There's a number of different things up on Maria, by the way. But also I can take a look at, well, this gentleman here in terms of pre-algebra. Let's listen to him for a second.
In pre-algebra. Writing ratios in simplest form is the same thing as reducing fractions.
So Drew's using the same kind of board that Maria just used a moment ago to kind of break things down. But as I scroll down here, and this is what I like about it, yes, I can continue seeing eHow videos, but I can also look at something called the art of problem solving. I can look at mathematics. I can see things from various other resources as I scroll down and down and down, teaching similar ideas. But this is how I've used searching for different math videos that can offer the illustration I want without me having to create it, and potentially that is available to me and my students without having to worry about, do we have a license for this? Do they have to log into this? Instead, I can organize these videos within the resources I'm trying to personalize. They can take a look at, well, something from Brew one time, Maria from another time, and that might offer a little bit more of assortment and engagement as well. But now with all that in mind, with all those things factored in mind, to me, all those different resources to consider, one of the things I need to have up my sleeve is, well, how do I vet them? How do I consider what's most appropriate for the struggling learners I'm working with, the individuals that maybe have some language challenges I'm working with, individuals that go back to a discussion I had several weeks ago about the variability of learning. And so I created this chart based on what we already know from elements of effective video education, specifically for content instruction that would align itself to math. So the chart could be 1 through 4, it could be 1 through 5. You know, to me, 4 is going to be the more you score, the higher you are. The higher you are, of course, the better you are. So instead of the golf idea, no, I want more points versus less points. And the idea here is that I'm going to look at, does it illustrate the concept? Does it offer a clear purpose? Does it represent the ideas via images, audio, illustrations? Does it anchor it to a concept I'm trying to understand from a learner perspective? Does it offer the information where I'm not having to have a cognitive overload or being challenged with the cognitive load of the instruction? And is the quality of the video and audio appropriate? So now with that in mind, let me kind of go towards here, and I'll just kind of reduce this here. And actually, let's go back to our video. And let's go back to Maria for a moment. And I'm going to show you actually how to teach ratio. Her. I'll make her larger here. And, you know, from the audio and the video, let's go with the easy ones. I think the video is pretty good quality. I think the audio, when I was listening to it, was pretty good quality as well. Now, she's trying to illustrate a concept between pints and cups. The challenge right at the beginning is I'm not sure what a pint is. And so, gosh, it would be wonderful if she could illustrate to me, and it could just simply a drawing of 2 cups. It could be a drawing of a pint in terms of size. And maybe it's something with milk, or maybe it's something with a liquid. That is making me better understand that concept. Now, as the purpose of the video, even though I've muted her, is it clear about what she's trying to do? And actually, I have listened to this, and I would say, yes, she's very clear. Is she representing the ideas in a variety of different ways, though? And I'd say, actually, no. And you might say, well, Sean, she's introducing the math formula. She's introducing these elements here. But that's part of my problem. I need that context. I need that connection to something else so that I can understand then the formula you're trying to break up. So you're not anchoring that idea. You're not connecting it nor representing it. Now, cognitive load-wise, and I have listened to her, is she overloading it with additional information? And actually, no, she's not. In my part, no, she's very direct to the math concept she's trying to introduce. So overall, has she made some nice connections? Yes, she has. Does she score as well as she could? No, because of the problem illustrating the purpose of the video is fine, but representing, anchoring it, and elements of that nature, I'm finding some challenges. Well, let's go back to, not this gentleman, but let's go back to our math antics. I'm going to move this back just a bit, and we'll make it a little bit larger. And let's listen to this gentleman again. All right.
About it this way. Let's say the number 20 represents an amount. like the amount of ladybugs that you found at the park one day. And let's also imagine that you agreed to give 25% of all the ladybugs you found to your little sister.
All right, so he has just, to me, introduced this idea of a number. He's given it reference to the fact that I found these ladybugs at the park. He's contextualizing now the number to a percentage. He had a little humor there for my engagement. So he's representing the ideas in a variety of different ways. He's anchoring it. Yes, he could have anchored it even stronger, but he's anchoring it. He's illustrating the concept in a variety of different ways. I haven't gotten to a math problem yet, and yet I've been introduced to a number, I've been introduced to percentages, I've been introduced to the overall concept. Is the cognitive load being an additional thing? Well, right now, I'm fine with my cognitive load. He introduced ladybugs, and yes, I'm thinking about ladybugs, but he's consistently using that as a number, and that's how he introduced it. He didn't say, oh, let's talk about ladybugs, and by the way, did you know that they're an insect, and by the way, did you know blah, blah, blah. He's contextualized it within the relevancy of the math concept. And finally, for the audio and video quality of the audio and video quality, I'd say is pretty good. Let's listen to a little bit more.
Okay then, so how many is that? If you have 20 ladybugs, how many is 25%? If we use the fraction form of our percent.
And I won't move it further, but the idea here is he now brings it into a math problem. And so for me, the relevancy and the connection now is quite good. So let's go back to what I was sharing a moment ago in terms of the kind of vetting criteria. To me, he would score quite nicely. In comparison to Maria, who, she's an average score, and I could certainly offer you some very poor examples where I wouldn't score those well at all. The idea here for me is to further contextualize, further understand all the different resources we have out there. So to select for, okay, not all videos created equal. How do I make some determination of pre-made video? And then how do I score that and rate that so I can then use it with the right learners and, of course, support the learners in their variable needs. Now, with all that said, I may end up coming up with the understanding that, well, maybe I need to think about some things I need to create myself. Now, we talked about earlier about that paper slide video, but there's a number of places we can go to actually create our own video, and a number of places that offer us some things for free. Now, I could use actually my phone, and I could put it on a stand, or I can put it on my Echo. I could put it on my a number of different places I could actually hold the video if I wanted to do video like that, but I could also record it off my simple desktop, similar to some elements that we saw in some earlier illustrations. And let me actually offer an illustration for you real quick. We'll just escape out of that real quick, and let's go up under a tool that's free called Screencastify. So I'm going to grab Screencastify. It's a Chrome app, and it will allow me to record my desktop. And I'll just simply press record, and it says, what do you want to record? I want to record this, so I'll press share, and I'll start to talk. Well,
2, 1.
I'll start to talk now. And as I start to talk, it's recording what it is that's showing here. So for example, if I go into here, it'll record this part or this part so you can see a little bit. And when I'm done recording, I simply press end recording. I'll start to talk now. And as I start to talk, it's recording what it is that's showing here. And you can see, you actually see me as well. So that wasn't necessary, but you can see the video there of me as well as that. And you can upload, download. You can also trash and delete. But that's an idea of where you can grab your, and that would actually show all the different Screencastify elements. But that's an element where you can actually grab your video from your screen. You can offer an illustration, and then that allows the individual to kind of make the connection from there. And that's something actually an individual can use as well. So it's something there available to us. And of course, there's a number of different tools that we can do editing in and things of that nature. Now, why would we want to do that? Well, maybe with all the different videos we have out there, we need to show something that has some virtual manipulatives, or we need to show something that has elements where we really want to offer, partitions for fractions when we're teaching that. And individuals need to know that, there's shapes and elements in terms of the idea of this complexity of partitions. And they're challenged with that. And we're not finding anything that accurately illustrates that. So maybe we actually create our own. And we create our own with a variety of tools that are out there that allow us to, again, capture our own desktop, edit our own video, and then send it out and put it out there for individuals to consider. Again, this is just a consideration, but a lot of those tools exist, and I'd hate for us to end without kind of reinforcing that. To kind of follow up with this session, again, I want to reinforce the fact that there are resources out there that talk to us about the use of video in education. Some are general technology reports, and some are very specific to video and its illustration. So I want to kind of remind us of that and reinforce that as you kind of think about the resources that are out there. vetting the resources that are out there, considering the resources that are out there, and maybe even creating your own video or having your students create their own video to demonstrate and represent what it is we're trying to teach them in the math concept. Have a great rest of the afternoon or evening and hope this was helpful.